Good morning. The question before us today is critical for shaping a fair and progressive society. Should the government ensure every citizen has access to the internet? Free of charge? I firmly believe the answer is yes. In the 21st century, internet access is no longer a luxury. It's a fundamental utility, as essential as electricity or clean water. Denying access means denying opportunities for education, for employment, for civic participation, for accessing vital services. It deepens the digital divide, creating a society of haves and have-nots. Providing free internet is an investment in our collective future, unlocking potential, fostering innovation, and building a more equitable nation for everyone. It's a necessary step towards true equality.
Good morning, Alice. While the vision of universal connectivity is appealing, the practicalities and potential downsides of government-provided free internet are substantial and cannot be ignored. Firstly, the cost associated with building, maintaining, and upgrading a nationwide broadband infrastructure capable of serving every citizen would be astronomical. Where would this funding come from, if not significant tax increases or cuts to other essential services? Secondly, such a move could stifle innovation and competition within the telecommunications sector. Private companies might be unwilling to invest if they have to compete with a free government service. Furthermore, we must consider the potential for government overreach, censorship, and surveillance when the state controls the primary means of digital communication. The implications for privacy and free speech are deeply concerning. Therefore, while bridging the digital divide is crucial, proposing universal free internet as the solution overlooks significant economic, logistical, and ethical challenges. We need more targeted and sustainable approaches.
Bob raises the point about cost, but let's reframe it as an investment with substantial returns. Providing free internet access can significantly boost economic activity. Think about the entrepreneurs in underserved areas who could start online businesses, or the workers who could gain new skills through online courses, increasing their employability. This stimulates local economies. Access empowers consumers to find better deals, access telehealth, and engage more efficiently with government services, saving both time and money for individuals and the state. Furthermore, a digitally connected populace attracts investment and fosters innovation across various sectors. It's the bedrock upon which a modern, competitive economy is built. The long-term economic benefits far outweigh the initial outlay.
Alice paints an optimistic picture, but the sheer scale of the initial outlay is staggering. We're talking potentially hundreds of billions of dollars just for the infrastructure build-out, let alone ongoing maintenance and upgrades. This isn't a one-time cost. Technology evolves rapidly. Fiber optic networks need constant upkeep, and future technologies will require further massive investment. Can the government sustain this indefinitely without crippling other budgets? You mentioned stimulating local economies, but what about the existing local internet service providers, often small businesses themselves? A free government alternative could drive them out of business, leading to job losses in that sector. Relying solely on projected long-term benefits to justify such immediate and colossal spending seems fiscally irresponsible. There's no guarantee these benefits will materialize to the extent needed to offset the costs.
Fiscal responsibility also means investing strategically for future growth. Ignoring the digital divide carries its own long-term economic costs: lost productivity, reduced innovation, increased inequality. We don't have to see this as purely government-run versus private. Public-private partnerships could be explored, leveraging private sector expertise for deployment and maintenance, while ensuring universal access funded publicly. Many essential services, like roads or the initial electrification grids, required significant public investment. They were seen as enabling infrastructure, and the internet is no different today. The economic platform it provides is invaluable. Regarding existing ISPs, the focus could be on providing a baseline level of free access, while private companies continue to offer premium, higher-speed services for those willing to pay. This allows for coexistence and competition on quality and features.
Public-private partnerships often sound good in theory, but can become complex and inefficient, sometimes leading to costs spiraling further. Defining the terms and responsibilities clearly would be a huge challenge. Comparing internet to roads or electricity isn't entirely accurate. The pace of technological change in communications is far faster. What constitutes a quote baseline service today might be obsolete in 5 years, requiring continuous, expensive upgrades funded by taxpayers. And if the government provides a quote baseline free service, what incentive remains for private companies to invest in expanding high-speed infrastructure, especially in less profitable rural or low-income areas? They might just focus on affluent urban centers, exacerbating the divide in quality of service. The risk is creating a two-tiered system, a potentially slow, unreliable free service for the masses, and high-quality paid services for the few, which doesn't fully solve the equity problem Alice aims to address.
Bob, the core issue here is equity. The digital divide disproportionately affects low-income families, rural communities, minorities, and the elderly. Free access is the most direct way to level the playing field. Consider education. Students without reliable home internet were severely disadvantaged during the pandemic and continue to struggle with homework, research, and accessing online learning platforms. Free internet access is vital for educational equality. It's also about access to employment. Many job applications are online only. Remote work opportunities are expanding, but inaccessible without connectivity. Free internet opens doors to better livelihoods. Furthermore, access to information is fundamental in a democracy. Health information, government services, news. Being offline means being excluded from essential aspects of modern life. Universal access promotes informed and engaged citizenship.
Equity is indeed important, Alice, but simply providing a free connection doesn't automatically bridge the divide. There are other significant barriers. What about the cost of devices? A free internet connection is useless without a computer, tablet, or smartphone, which many low-income families still cannot afford. And crucially, what about digital literacy? Many people, particularly older adults or those with limited education, lack the skills to effectively use the internet even if it's available. Providing access without addressing the skills gap yields limited benefits. Wouldn't targeted subsidies be more effective? Providing vouchers for low-income households to purchase internet service from existing providers, coupled with funding for device access and digital literacy programs, seems a more focused and potentially less costly approach.
Targeted subsidies often involve bureaucratic hurdles, means testing, and can stigmatize recipients. They often don't reach everyone who needs them. Universal provision avoids these problems, treating internet like other public services. While device access and digital literacy are crucial components, they should be tackled alongside universal access, not instead of it. Free access provides the foundational infrastructure upon which these other programs can build. We can implement community programs, library resources, and school initiatives to provide device access and training, funded as part of the overall digital equity strategy. Making the connection free removes the most significant ongoing barrier for low-income families. Think of it like public libraries. They provide free access to books and resources for everyone, regardless of income, alongside programs promoting literacy. Free internet access serves a similar role in the digital age. It's a public good.
Comparing it to libraries overlooks the scale and technical complexity. Maintaining a nationwide broadband network is vastly more expensive and complex than running libraries. The public good argument doesn't negate the immense practical challenges. If the government service is basic, as discussed earlier, it might not be sufficient for modern educational or employment needs. Video conferencing, large file downloads, streaming educational content. These require robust bandwidth that a free baseline service might not offer. This could lead to a situation where students in poorer areas have, quote, access, but it's functionally inadequate, creating a new kind of digital divide based on quality of service, not just availability. So while universality sounds appealing, the risk of creating a subpar, expensive, and ultimately inadequate system is very real. Targeted support combined with investment in quality infrastructure seems a more prudent path.
Bob, you've touched upon government overreach, but let's consider the fundamental role of government. Isn't ensuring access to essential services and promoting the general welfare a core responsibility? We trust the government with water safety, road networks, and public education. Why should the digital infrastructure that underpins modern society be treated differently? It's become a prerequisite for full participation. Treating internet access as a fundamental right, guaranteed by the government, ensures universality and prevents profit motives from excluding vulnerable populations. It aligns with democratic principles of equal opportunity. Concerns about surveillance or censorship are valid, but they are not unique to a public provider. These issues require robust legal frameworks, independent oversight, and strong data protection laws, regardless of who owns the infrastructure.
The difference, Alice, lies in the nature of the service. The internet is primarily a conduit for information and communication. Giving the government control over this conduit creates a unique and potentially dangerous concentration of power. Imagine a scenario where the government, facing political dissent, decides to throttle access to certain websites or monitor communications flowing through its network. The potential for abuse is significantly higher when the state is the sole or primary provider. While legal frameworks are necessary, history shows that governments can, and sometimes do, circumvent rules for national security or political reasons. Relying solely on oversight might be naive when control is centralized. Furthermore, would a government-run internet service truly uphold net neutrality? There might be political temptation to prioritize certain government services or partners, creating an uneven playing field online. Private competition, despite its flaws, offers some decentralization of control.
This paints a rather dystopian picture, Bob. Many democratic countries with strong public service traditions manage state-owned enterprises without descending into authoritarian control. It's about checks and balances. We can structure the public internet utility as an independent entity, shielded from direct political interference, with a clear mandate enshrined in law, including strict net neutrality and privacy protections, audited by an independent body. Private ISPs are also subject to government mandates regarding surveillance and data retention, and their own commercial interests can lead to non-neutral practices like throttling or paid prioritization. Centralized government control isn't the only risk. The risk of not providing universal access, the entrenchment of inequality, the stifling of opportunity, is, in my view, a far greater threat to a healthy democracy than the manageable risks associated with a well-regulated public utility.
Manageable risks is perhaps too optimistic. Establishing truly independent oversight, immune to political pressure, is notoriously difficult. The temptation to use the network for state purposes, whether surveillance or propaganda, would always be present. And while private ISPs face regulations, the very existence of multiple providers creates a degree of choice and makes wholesale censorship or surveillance slightly more complex than if a single government entity controlled the pipes. Consider the data generated. A government ISP would have access to an unprecedented amount of information about citizens' online activities. Even with privacy laws, the potential for data breaches or misuse, intentional or accidental, is enormous. So while inequality is a serious concern, handing the keys to our primary communication infrastructure directly to the state introduces a different, potentially more insidious set of risks to freedom and privacy. that we should be extremely wary of.
Bob has repeatedly raised concerns about the impact on private ISPs. However, a public option doesn't necessarily mean the end of the private market. They can coexist and even complement each other. As mentioned, the government could focus on providing a universal baseline service, ensuring everyone is connected. Private companies could then compete to offer faster speeds, enhanced services, business solutions, and better customer support to those willing to pay. This model could actually stimulate the broader digital economy. With universal basic access, the demand for devices, software, online content, and digital services would likely increase, creating opportunities for many businesses, not just ISPs. Public investment could also focus on building open access fiber networks, which private ISPs could then lease capacity from to offer their services, reducing their own infrastructure costs and encouraging competition, especially in underserved areas.
The idea of coexistence sounds plausible, but the reality is that competing against free is incredibly difficult. Even if the free service is basic, it fundamentally undermines the business model of private ISPs. Why would consumers pay for a service, even a better one, if a free alternative exists that meets their minimum needs? This would likely lead to significant customer loss for private providers, reducing their revenue and ability to invest. Consequently, private investment in network upgrades and expansion could dry up. Companies won't invest billions in next-generation networks if they anticipate losing customers to a subsidized government competitor. This could slow down overall technological progress. The "open access network" model also has challenges. Setting fair leasing prices, ensuring equal access for all providers, and managing the core network effectively still fall to a government entity, bringing back issues of efficiency and potential bias.
We underestimate consumer demand for quality and speed. Many people willingly pay for faster, more reliable services, even when cheaper options exist. Think premium cable channels versus basic broadcast, or high-speed rail versus standard trains. A baseline free service might suffice for basic browsing and email, but not for high-definition streaming, online gaming, remote work involving large files, or multi-user households. This leaves ample room for premium private offerings. Furthermore, competition can spur the government provider to maintain a reasonable level of quality, while the existence of the free baseline puts pressure on private ISPs to offer genuinely superior value for their price. It could lead to a healthier market overall. The goal isn't to eliminate private ISPs, but to ensure everyone has access to the essential digital world. A mixed model, carefully designed, can achieve this without completely stifling private enterprise and innovation.
The comparison with trains or TV isn't perfect. Internet access is becoming increasingly integral, and the baseline needs keep rising. What's basic today won't be tomorrow, forcing the government provider into an expensive arms race it might not win, or leaving users with an inadequate service. Relying on private companies to innovate while their core market is eroded by a free competitor seems unrealistic. Their focus might shift entirely to niche, high-end markets, leaving the majority with the potentially mediocre government service. This could lead to less innovation overall, as the primary drivers, private companies competing for mass-market customers, are weakened. Government bodies aren't typically known for rapid technological innovation in competitive fields. Ultimately, introducing a universal free government service risks distorting the market significantly, potentially leading to reduced investment, slower innovation, and a lower quality of service for many in the long run, compared to a well-regulated private market with targeted support for those who cannot afford access.
In conclusion, the arguments against free government-provided internet, cost, feasibility, potential misuse, are challenges to be managed, not insurmountable barriers. The moral and economic imperatives are simply too strong to ignore. Internet access is the gateway to education, employment, healthcare, and civic life in the 21st century. Denying it based on income or geography is unacceptable in a just society. It is a fundamental right. Providing universal free access bridges the digital divide, stimulates economic growth by empowering individuals and businesses, fosters innovation, and strengthens our democracy by ensuring everyone can participate. Yes, it requires significant investment and careful planning, potentially involving public-private partnerships and robust oversight. But like universal education or healthcare, it is an investment in our people and our future that will pay dividends for generations to come. Let's embrace this necessary step towards a truly connected and equitable society.
While I share Alice's goal of universal connectivity, the proposal for the government to provide free internet for all carries profound risks that we've explored today. The financial burden on taxpayers would be immense and ongoing. The logistical challenges of building and maintaining a reliable, high-quality nationwide network are vast, and relying on government bureaucracy for such a dynamic technological service is questionable. Quality could suffer compared to competitive private offerings. Furthermore, centralizing control of internet access within the government raises serious concerns about privacy, free speech, and the potential for surveillance or censorship. The impact on private sector investment and innovation could also be detrimental, slowing technological progress. A more prudent and sustainable approach involves targeted support. Subsidies for low-income households, investment in digital literacy and device access, and public funding to ensure infrastructure reaches underserved areas while maintaining a competitive private market. This addresses the equity issue without incurring the massive costs and risks of a full government takeover.